Welcome to Dan's Talks. My guests today are two authors and actually television producers on the side, Audrey Bellezza on the left and Emily Harding on the right, wave. And this is the second time they've done this. They've written a current day novel set in the Hamptons called Elizabeth of East Hampton, which follows the plot of a classic book, in this case, Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. It was done once before, and I think, I don't mean here in East Hampton, but this is the second time you've collaborated together and done this, correct?
It is, yeah. The first
Describe,
one was, oh, go ahead.
describe the first and how it came about.
Oh, well, Audrey and I have been friends for well over a decade. We were TV producers before we were writers, and our industry kind of fell apart during the pandemic. And we found ourselves, I had just moved down to Texas from New York, and Audrey was in New Jersey, newly arrived in New Jersey from New York City as well. So we were in new places. We were stuck at home with our families, going slightly crazy without work. And we started chatting and decided we both liked writing. So we decided to write a project together. And Emma is one of our favorite books, the novel by Jane Austen. So we thought, why don't we retell that in New York City? Because we missed New York. We wanted to kind of relive our favorite memories and relive one of our favorite books. So it was the best of both worlds. And we were lucky enough that one of our beta readers knew someone. She's like, this is fantastic. Let me send this to my friend who's a literary agent. And then it just came about very organically and wonderfully. One of those kind of fairy tale moments. So
And that became quite a success, that book?
We think so. It's called Emma of 83rd Street. And it did well. And now we're on our second book, which is Elizabeth of East Hampton. And it is a modern retelling of Pride and Prejudice set in East Hampton.
Same author.
Yes.
Yes.
We love Miss Jane Austen.
Yes.
So.
What is special about Jane Austen that made you choose that instead of, for example, Star Wars?
I'm sure George Lucas probably would have had
an
issue with us,
we
but also
Star Wars. We love Star Wars.
I know. I think we both love. I think most people have some relationship with Jane Austen, but I think especially women growing up, that Jane Austen's kind of ubiquitous with our growing up and discovering books and films. I think the adaptions that you've seen on TV and in movies is so fantastic. But she validated a lot of the domestic. She was the first one to say, hey, the things that are happening in women's lives at home are just as important as these adventures that are happening outside in the world. So I think that was a fantastic and groundbreaking 200 years ago, and it still has an influence today. And it was part of the reason we picked her, because we were also stuck at home, with the dramas of the domestic. So it worked at the time. And I think Pride and Prejudice is such a perfect book for the Hamptons, because it really is that, examining the different classes and the wonderful idiosyncratic moments that exist in the country outside of a big city. So it was fun.
Yes, in fact, describe that. I know that from what I've read about the book, that Elizabeth of East Hampton, that it involves the dynamics between the locals and the summer people who are in some ways connected in a negative relationship to one another, and in some aren't. But tell me more about the plot of the book, since it's already known what it is.
Sure. So it is a modern retelling of Pride and Prejudice, and it's set in the Hamptons during one summer, and it's about a family of 5, the Bennets, and their local bakery. It's about the town watering hole. It's about love at first sight and earned love, and what happens when 2 men from Manhattan come out and kind of shake things up for the summer. And there's surfing, and it sort of just explores all the things that we love about the Hamptons and what we love about Manhattan. And it all kind of comes together in one great summer.
Tell me about what your love is of the Hamptons, what each of you like, one at a time.
Well, I think,
Well,
Audrey, you have to go first. You have to go first
Okay.
because your parents have
a little story. So my parents actually met out in the Hamptons. They met in the 70s, and the story is that my dad was going to some party, and my mom heard about the party, but she knocked on the wrong door, and it was my dad's door. Anyway, they ended up getting together in the Hamptons one summer, and then then they started dating. They both were from Manhattan. They had summer houses out there, and then they started dating, and about 2 years later they got married. So I grew up with my parents talking about the Hamptons, and we should go out to, and then we moved to Jersey when I grew up. But we should go out to the Hamptons, and we're going to sit in traffic, but it's going to be worth it. And taking us out to Montauk as children, and my siblings and I going to Gossman's Dock and having lobster, and then growing up and, living in Manhattan, and then having, your friends either went down the shore during the summer or they went to the Hamptons. So we kind of would either mooch off of friends who had summer houses out there and visited, or, tried to get out there whenever we could. So kind of have a little history there.
By the way, you said something that made me laugh, because there's a comment you made which few people would connect with, but I sure did. I'm born and raised in New Jersey.
You are?
Down the shore.
Where?
I grew up in Millburn, New Jersey. My parents.
I'm in Maplewood.
My goodness. Did you go to Columbia High School?
My kids will.
Why?
My kids will go there. Yeah.
Well, it was a long time ago. And we moved out when I was 15. My dad bought a store out in Montauk and dragged us all out there. We'd never been out to Montauk before. And it was quite a contrast. And if you've spent time in Millburn, New Jersey, you might appreciate that.
Yes.
From the perspective of a young teen.
Yes. Must have been very different. And then did you grow up going down this shore when you were little, and then?
Of course, Asbury Park.
Asbury Park. Yep. It's
Headley. How about, what is that town called, that shuts down for the night back then?
Ocean City.
Ocean Grave.
Oh, Ocean Grove. Yes.
Grave.
It's a dry town.
Grave. I like Grave.
Yeah, Grave. That's what they call that. Yes. All dry town.
It's a place that Bruce Springsteen made famous, and also the song Under the Boardwalk, which he did not write.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
But that's a whole
Anyway,
progression.
that's a whole nother. Yes.
So how does this turn out? Well, when your parents came out, they must have come out during that era when there was a lot of group houses, is my guess.
Exactly.
They were either in Amagansett or West Hampton, because that's
Yes.
what they were.
Yes. Yes.
And there was a lot of negative going on about that. People thought that was terrible, that people would come out for the rent, by the weekend and stuff. So, but those things happened. Yep.
Now it's all the time. Now everybody comes out on the weekends.
What's your connection, Audrey?
Oh, Emily. Audrey's parents met up there. I didn't really have any connection. I spent my 20s and 30s in New York City, and obviously went out to Montauk mostly in the summer. So when we were brainstorming this, I love it. If I could have been forgotten out there forever and just been able to live, I would have been so happy. And so it was a great place. And when we were brainstorming where do we set Pride and Prejudice, we both kind of said we could do the Hamptons. But before we really committed, we're like, we have to go out there and see and talk. And I think we did one trip out there, I think it was in September, October, a couple of years ago. And we went with a friend of Audrey's who had a house, and we did, we really spent a lot of time in East Hampton and Springs and Montauk. And everyone was so lovely. It was really just this amazing community who were like, here, come here. We'll take you to the farmer's market. We'll take you to Stephen Talk House. Well, they helped us so much understand the local perspective and the people coming in for the summer. And even that those people in between who owned homes but don't live there year round, and the nuances of those relationships. And we just knew because it fit, but also everyone was so kind. It was just such a lovely community to kind of like welcome us in, and we're like, here's the good, here's the bad, here are the tensions, here's what makes it great. And I hope we did it justice, because we're really at the end of it writing it for this group of people who are just so welcoming. We couldn't thank them enough.
And well, that's certainly been my experience as well. Are you thinking ahead? Have you got any plans for another book coming up?
Hopefully.
Yes.
we finished this one.
We're
This one
always
comes
thinking.
out. Yeah, this one comes out in August, and I think we're taking a breath, but I think we're already starting to, hopefully, we'd love to stay in the Jane Austen world. She wrote a number of books that we haven't touched on yet, but we'd love to. So we're kind of, some ideas are percolating, but right now we're happy to stay in East Hampton as long as possible. We're holding on.
Writing a book is not usually done in a collaboration, and I wondered if how things had worked out. Were there parts of this that one of you felt more competent than the other, or how did it come about that you were able to do it?
Well, I feel like Emily and I have worked together in television for so long. We just sort of finish each other's sentences at this point. So we sort of, I think we separate the chapters in the beginning, and then we put them together, make notes, send them to each other, and then it sort of all becomes one, and we make notes on each other, and then you don't even know who wrote what. It just sort of works. And I think it's because we have this trust that we developed in television, where you have to have really tough skin when you like something, or you are told, oh, this is terrible, start again. Like, this is never going to become a TV show. This is, 20 people telling you why something isn't working. So I feel like we know how to, say, this isn't going right, let's try it this way, and, work together in a way that, made the chapters work well and created a great book.
Yeah. And it's much easier when you're writing for your best friend than to think that you're writing for a big group of people. I think when we originally were writing Emma, and then when we wrote this one, I would write moments and chapters being like, oh, Audrey's going to laugh at this. Like, it was it was just, and then you kind of start getting into a bigger story. But I think for us, it was very nice writing for each other initially, and that we try to stay in that space. It seems to be working.
Tell me about, you apparently have done collaborations before for TV. Tell me a little bit about that work.
Well, the first time Audrey and I met, I had just started at this production company, and our boss at the time was like, great, you should go on this trip, and sent Audrey and I, who literally had just said hello and introduced ourselves, to this jail in Pittsburgh, where we were alone at this jail with people were in solitary confinement screaming at us, and it was the most insane situation. And Audrey and I are just getting to know each other. Like, what was your name again?
Yeah.
So it was like trial by fire.
Yeah.
So we've had, that was our first, I think from there we can only go up. So we've, a lot of development of ideas of shows that we've done. But mostly it was just, we were in development. So we're coming up with possible show ideas that we were selling.
Is there any show people might know of that you worked on together?
Let's see. Well, we worked on a lot of food shows, a lot of HGTV shows. I'm like trying to think, Magnolia shows, history shows. There's
Untying the Knot
Bravo
on
shows.
Bravo, yeah.
Oh, and that one, I'm like, oh, it's been a couple of years, but I'm sure you can still get them. What
history have you written up?
I worked at History Channel for many, many years prior to meeting Audrey. So I worked on, a series like 10 Days That Unexpectedly Changed America. I worked on helped with the development of Ice Road Truckers. I was not the executive producer on that, but I helped with the early stages of that. And there was like History's Mysteries, those types of shows. So, which was lovely. That was one of my first jobs in New York City, and still holds a special place in my heart. It was a great place. I really loved it.
Yeah. So do you like New York City too?
I love it. I miss it. Yeah.
We miss having her up here. Yes.
I know.
I'm always like, I'm sending her listings. Here you go.
I know.
Move
Come
here.
back, come
Move
back.
next door. Yeah.
One of you mentioned that you love Montauk. I think it was you.
It's me, Emily.
You
Yeah.
and- Were you was it about fishing? Was it about the wind? Was it about motels? What was the whole thing for
I
you?
think it was my father grew up in Southern California. So I remember being young and going out to Southern California, and he was a surfer. And so he would take us down to these, like, you know, La Jolla Beach, and it was this kind of rough, and it was paradise because you wanted it. It was beautiful. It wasn't too refined yet. And I think Montauk is that, and we tried to cover that when we were writing Montauk, that one of the characters is from Montauk, and it's this the beauty is in its ruggedness. It's not refined and been cleaned up. It's just this gorgeous raw bit at the end of the world. And so I think that's what I loved about it. And I went out a few times and stayed, I think it was Gurney's, and they had redone it. I stayed it before it was redone and after it was redone. And it was funny to see it. And it's funny to see them redo it and still trying to maintain that roughness, which I was like, oh, I'm glad they kind of did that a bit. And then seeing the difference with East Hampton, which is amazing and beautiful in a different way. And just saying they're only a few miles apart, but it does feel like you kind of moved worlds a bit. So
that was one of the reasons I started my newspaper in Montauk. And the reason was because the East Hampton people hated Montauk. East Hampton had gone back to the original settlers back in 1644. And Montauk went back to a developer in 1927 who tried to put an English resort and motels followed. So from their perspective, it was a horror show, you know. And also from their perspective, Montauk was a grazing area. That was a place where they took their cattle in the summer, and the ranch was there and so forth. So it became for me an obvious thing. I was in love with Montauk, so I said we need a voice. So I gave it one.
I love it. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, the history is so great.
Yeah, it is. Well, thank you for being on this. I know this was a hurry up job here to get us
We
both.
did it.
We were so
We were
excited.
so excited.
We
Yeah.
were like, we have to talk
We're
to
gonna
Dan.
make this happen.
Amazing. So thank you.
Sure. And you're going to have some reading in Southampton on the 9th, I think, August 9th.
We're going to be, I think August 9th, we're going to be in Southampton, and then we're going to be in East Hampton for the East Hampton Library Author Night on the 10th, I think. August,
Right.
sorry. So August 9th will be in Southampton, and then the August 10th will be at the East Hampton Library Authors Library Night.
Yep. Okay. Well, we'll see you there.
Great. Thank you
That
so
would be
much.
great.
Thanks for the show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.